Some of the most exhausting days don't look exhausting from the outside. Let me explain what I mean. Your calendar's not packed, you don't have errands to run, you haven't crossed anything off your to-do list. But what happened was your child woke up very overwhelmed. You helped them work through that feeling. You softened your voice whenever you really wanted to raise it. You thought through what they needed and then also what you needed, doing this all at once. And then by the evening, you're just sitting there thinking, why am I this tired? I didn't even do that much today. Here is the honest answer. Emotional intensity uses real energy, and most moms are running on a nervous system that's been on for hours without ever being told the workday is done. Let's get started.
Welcome to Chronic Illness Moms. If you're more than just a tired mom, I'm talking trying to make it through the day without crashing by noon while raising neurodivergent kids, you're not alone. I'm Ashley, a wife, mom, and certified health coach. I have lived with autoimmune disease and flare-ups that made everyday life feel harder than it should. After years of pushing through and burning out, I learned how much stress, poor sleep, and nervous system overload were driving my symptoms. Everything changed when I started building small, realistic habits that actually supported my body instead of fighting it. In this podcast, you'll learn simple habits that help you to feel better. So pop in your earbuds and take a break from the chaos. It's you time.
I have had mornings, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this situation as well, where I'm thinking of a morning specifically where a child was really, really struggling, having a meltdown over certain events not going the way that they wanted, and just in general, situations not being how they wanted. So it was this very small trigger that resorted to a lot of big feelings. And in the moment, I was able to stay very calm. I was able to help them work through those feelings. And really what ended up happening is these big feelings turned into a meltdown that lasted for, 30 minutes. And I was trying my best to help my child to be able to co-regulate by staying regulated myself. I was working through that with them. I was being calm. I was setting these firm boundaries when they were getting upset about the change in our routine and our schedule, letting them know that this is the way it was going to be, but at the same time, trying to be calm and supportive for them. And what ended up happening is it just completely shifted the entire trajectory of our day. I was running behind by that point because I had focused all this time and attention on helping my child work through these feelings, helping them understand just the concept of boundaries and schedules and routines and all of these things. And it was only 9 a.m. and I was absolutely exhausted. Have you ever had a morning like that? Have you had a morning like that in the last couple of weeks where it's like nothing huge happened, but emotionally it felt like you were running a marathon? This week, I'm going to start a very short 2-week series on something that almost every exhausted mom is experiencing, and that is emotional stress and how it will drain your energy. Over the next 4 episodes, we are going to talk about why emotional days leave you this tired, and that's what we're going to focus on today. The next episode is going to be why your nervous system absorbs your child's stress. Then for the following episode, we will focus on some 2-minute resets that most moms skip and that keep them stuck in that chronic stress. And we will finish it up with talking about why exhaustion will linger long after those stressful moments are over. So today we're going to be talking about why that emotional stress and strain drains your energy, and then also why a lot of moms underestimate this kind of fatigue, and then how understanding it can finally help to lift some of that guilt that you might be feeling that shows up at the end of a day that doesn't feel like it should be draining, but it was. And as I'm talking through this episode and you hear me talking about these various pieces and how I have worked on regulating my emotions and really just learning about the toll that emotional intensity has on your body, and you are thinking, I really wish that I had someone to walk through this with me. I'm in a really tough point in my life right now, in our home situation with our child, whatever that may be, and you're looking for someone to talk through this with you and then help you to come up with a plan moving forward that's going to help you to shift out of this just chronic stress that you are in. That is what my one-on-one chronic health coaching sessions are for. We will sit down in an hour. We will look at and evaluate your life, focus on your number one pain point or struggle that is going on. And from there, we will then look at my Power 9, which are my foundational health tools, which essentially help you to feel better, to be able to recover from stress more, to be able to sleep better, all of these things. And we really do customize it to whatever it is you are needing most in your life. And we will come up with a simple plan that is going to help you to move forward with one actionable step that is going to help you to start to slowly shift in that area of figuring out how to regulate your emotions, how to help your child regulate their emotions, how to sleep, how to manage stress, whatever that thing is for you, we are going to focus on that. So if you want to learn more, you can go to ashleybraden.com/coaching and check it out. Okay, so first and foremost, I just want to make this really clear, and this is something that I think sometimes we forget. Emotional labor or times of emotional intensity, it really is work. So there are visible work. There's visible work that we do, like dishes, laundry, driving, running errands, work, like actual work. And then there are things that are more emotional work. So this can look like regulating your own mood, noticing the moods of your children and everyone in your house, working to help to predict and hopefully avoid a meltdown, calming a dysregulated child, calming yourself when your child is dysregulated. It could be mediating between fighting siblings, staying patient when you are exhausted and you just feel like you don't have anything left to give and you wish you could take a nap, but you can't because you have kids to take care of and a house to run. And on top of that, having those feelings, then trying to manage your own reactions to these difficult situations in a way that feels very healthy, in a way that feels like that's how you want to respond. So a lot of times we look at visible work and we count that, like that counts for something, I've done work. But emotional work doesn't always count in our brain. But the reality is our brain is doing work either way, whether it's that physical or the emotional work. Your brain is still doing work. So when you are a mom who is dealing with chronic illness, chronic symptoms, and you're raising neurodivergent kids, that emotional work is a lot heavier and it's also more constant. There are more transitions to work through. There are more sensory inputs to keep track of. There can potentially be more meltdowns, more opportunities, or more really situations where you need to help your child to co-regulate. And this is all while your body is already doing more work and asking for more from you because of those chronic symptoms you have than a lot of people are dealing with. So when we think about it, that emotional caregiving, that's really what we're doing for our kids. And it does require energy from our brain. So when your child is dysregulated, your brain is just silently running these questions on a loop. What does she need right now? Is this escalating? Do I step in? Do I give space? How can I keep myself calm? What can I do to help my child right now? And really that is decision making. It's emotional regulation, and it's also monitoring for safety, trying to help yourself. Well, it's really helping ourselves feel safe while also trying to help our child feel safe. And all of these things are happening all at once. And also keep in mind, they're happening in the middle of a stressful situation. So your body might be sitting still, but your brain is on a marathon. And that's what we have to keep in mind, is that sometimes we don't have physically intense days. We have emotionally intense days. And I can tell you, as someone who has had some emotionally intense days lately, that it is just as much, if not more so, draining than those physically busy ones. And that is why that exhaustion that comes, and sometimes even the guilt that follows that, it can feel a little bit confusing, because most of us were taught that being tired comes from doing hard work, from cleaning, from running, from moving. Just a couple of days ago, we're trying to completely redo our garden. And so I was shoveling dirt and trying to get stuff organized and all of that. And my body was physically tired. And that's what we think. We think, okay, well, I'm only physically tired whenever I'm doing those kind of things. But I can also tell you, I've had times in the last couple of weeks that were very emotionally intense days. And I felt just as physically tired from those things. Now, it was different. Obviously, it was more of like a drain. I felt that mental drain. Whereas obviously when I was shoveling dirt and things like that, my muscles felt physically sore. So I'm not saying it's the exact same thing, but what I'm saying is it still takes a toll on your body. So, whenever we have these more emotionally intense days, not physically intense, and we feel just absolutely exhausted after that day, that it's like, oh, well, I didn't really do much. Your brain sometimes can turn on you and you start to think things like, why am I like this? I didn't even do anything. What's wrong with me? Am I lazy? Is there something wrong? And the thing is, you did actually do something. You just did it inside your body, inside your nervous system, inside your brain, where there were no physical results of what was going on. And this really does matter, especially if you are living with chronic illness, chronic symptoms, brain fog, inflammation, fatigue, because your baseline of what you can handle and also the amount of energy you have is already probably lower than most people. And we talk about that a lot. A lot of times we have this guilt and shame because we feel like we should be able to keep up with what this person is doing or that person is doing. And really, especially when you're in the middle of like a flare up or just a really intense bout of those symptoms, it can be very easy to start to feel that guilt and that shame around feeling like you're doing something wrong. There's something wrong with you. And being able to come to that realization that your body is just at a lower baseline, you start a lot lower and you're able to tolerate a lot less. That allows you to give yourself grace. And instead of trying to push yourself to do what really your body can't handle right now, you learn to respect what the limits of your body and to give yourself grace whenever you just have to say, okay, this is all I can do for right now. And it doesn't mean that I'm not trying, and it doesn't mean that I'm not doing my best. And so that's why I think this is so important, because a lot of times we can come to that realization when it comes to physical stuff. So, okay, I understand that I'm in the middle of a flare up right now, and I might not be able to go outside and shovel the garden or do whatever I need to do. And we can accept that, but we don't necessarily always recognize when we are in an emotionally intense season, and that doesn't translate in our minds to also being taxing, to also draining us. And then therefore we don't give ourselves that grace in the same type of season. So it's still a difficult season for you. It's just not showing up in the physical exertion that you are putting out. And so that's why I think it's so important for us to say, regardless, I know my baseline energy is lower. And yes, these types of tasks are more like invisible labor. It's that more emotional labor, but it is still taking energy from your body. So really the takeaway I want you to get from this is, if you have that day or even that week or that month that it is just a lot of emotionally exhausting things going on, and this can look different for you. It might not be related to a child. It might be related to a family situation or some kind of other stressful situation. I just want to use this example of your child because this is something that I see a lot, that I've experienced in my life as well. And it's something that sometimes we don't realize the toll that it has on us until it really gets to the extreme level where we just feel like we're about to snap or we can't take it anymore. And so my goal is for you to be able to see these warning signs early on and to start to give yourself grace, and also to adapt and adjust. Just like we do when we're in a flare up, we adjust that physical output that we're doing. We can also learn to adapt and give ourselves a little bit more grace when it comes to that emotional output. Now, obviously, if we're talking about our kids, we still have to be able to show up, be engaged, be involved. Obviously, we want to show up and do that in the healthiest way possible. But at the same time, we can recognize that to do that, that might mean that we need to give our body a little bit more support. So I just want to encourage you, if you have those seasons where you're thinking, okay, this is a very emotionally intense season, maybe just an emotionally intense day, and you catch yourself feeling guilt or trying to guilt yourself really that you haven't done anything, just remind yourself that it does use real mental energy to manage those situations. And that exhaustion you feel is earned. It is not something that you're making an excuse for. It is not a default with you. It truly does tax your body. So here's what I want you to do. Tonight, before you go to sleep, I want you to name 3 really emotional, intense moments from your day. Now, if the day has been great and you don't have those moments, then think about from your week. And I want you to just say it. You can say it out loud. You can put it down in your notes app, on a Post-it, whatever works best for you. So an example could be, I helped my child through a meltdown in the middle of the day. It could be that I remained calm while my kids were arguing about, whatever it is they were arguing about. It could also be I absorbed or experienced my child's frustration or their bad attitude or whatever about homework or about me telling them no without snapping back or without getting irritable. I was able to calmly and kindly set the boundary. And the reason why this is really helpful is because when your brain gets the credit for what it actually did, then, that idea of, well, I didn't even do anything, that thought process that we have, it starts to quiet down. The guilt will go away. The shame will go away because your brain is recognizing, oh, I actually did do work. I did do this. I did do that. And it's so easy for us to brush those off and to not even think about them. So if we can set aside time to be really intentional of saying, what are 3 things that were really intense today, emotionally intense, or this week? And how did I manage them? And and just recognize, bringing that attention to our own brains that we did actually do work even when it doesn't feel like it. So again, what this helps you to do is to finally choose to focus on recovery, to focus on acknowledging your situation so that you can then support your body instead of just pushing through like we so often want to do. Okay, so I just want to say that this is one of those first shifts that I walk through, whenever I'm speaking with moms on that one-on-one, because before we can really even name or change anything, we have to name that invisible work that is going on. The things that we're managing day in and day out that we just don't put a name to. We don't think about the fact that we are managing these things because it's just a normal part of our everyday life. And so it can be really, really helpful for you to see on paper what it is you're actually managing. Like what are all the things that I'm actually managing, not just the physical, but also the emotional. And that can really help you to shift how you treat yourself for the rest of the day, how you treat yourself for the rest of the week, whenever you're able to really put down and recognize, I am actually managing a lot and I am doing really well for how much I am managing. I will remind myself of that sometimes because it's really easy to guilt ourselves and to really beat ourselves up whenever things are not going well. And so I will sometimes do that. I will sit down and write down things or just think in my mind of the things that I'm managing. And I will think, okay, considering all of this, I think I'm doing okay. Now, that doesn't mean that there is not room for improvement, because there always is. And I'm always looking for ways to get better. But at the same time, I can give myself credit for the things that I am managing well, and then hope to pivot and grow in the areas that I know I need to work in. Okay, friends, that is all for this episode. I do want to say, if this one hit really close to home, if you feel yourself struggling with this, I would love for you to tell me about it inside of our free Facebook community. Just come over there. I will have some posts related to this podcast episode and share one piece of invisible work that you did today. And let's just give each other a place to share, to encourage, and really just give each other credit for the things that we are managing. And that really is the whole point of my Facebook community. So I will have that linked down in the show notes below if you want to find that. And then make sure you stay tuned for Thursday's episode, which we are going to be talking about why your nervous system actually absorbs your child's stress, and then why you end up feeling their feelings and how you can kind of sort through that. So I'll see you back on Thursday. I hope you guys have a wonderful week.
Hey friend, I hope you found today's episode helpful. If you did, would you take a minute to share it with another mom who's struggling with chronic symptoms? And leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It means the world to me to know this podcast is making a difference for you. All right, it's time for me to go tackle those snack requests, and remember that a short walk, even if the kids turn it into a race, still counts as self-care. Keep chasing those little wins. Even when it feels messy, you're making progress. The information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. I'm not a doctor, and this podcast is not intended to treat or diagnose any condition. You're the expert on your body. Listen to it and reach out to a trusted provider for support.